theme for our presentation this evening is teacher professionalism, ethics, and professional excellence. And we will actually start with what we call the National Teacher Standard. Talking about professionalization of the teacher in Ghana, it all has a history. You all can freshly remember that some 5 years ago or so, the professionalism of the Ghanaian teacher was in limbo. It was in limbo because it was difficult to decide whether the teacher in Ghana was a professional or not. And this actually created some series of chaos and confusion between we, the teachers, and other stakeholders in this country, to the extent that a minister of state some years back made a comment that did not go down well with teachers in Ghana, and the comment came at the back of a strike embarked upon by our teachers in Ghana demanding their rights. And all stakeholders coming in to plead for teachers to go back to the classroom proved futile. Then a minister of state came out and said, and I quote, "If the teachers will not go to the classroom and teach, we will go and look for ex-service men and women to go in and replace them and teach the children better." This caused a very serious antagonism between the members of the profession and the minister and the ministry as a whole. So the debate and the conversation started as to whether teachers were really professionals. Why? There was no way that minister could have said same to the medical doctor if they went on strike, that they will go and look for ex-service men and women to go into the theater and start operating. There was no way that minister could have said same to the nurses, that if you don't go to the classroom, we'll go out there and look for ex-service men and women to go there and take charge of the patients. There was no way. So why is it that this was said of teachers? So the debate and the conversation started and took a different level altogether. Then teachers began to question themselves: Are we really professionals? Are we valuable? Are we necessary? Are we significant? Is the role we are playing important at all? So this question up severally, and then it came to a point the teachers themselves began to realize that, in fact, the way we handle ourselves, the way we were treated, and the system was structured, it was difficult to tell whether we were professionals or not. Because at a time, you could hear people saying people teacher, and you will never hear people nurse, people daughter, or people lawyer. So we started looking at what are some of the things that have come to infiltrate and destroy our significance and values and value as professionals. And we realized that a lot of people who did not go through the training as teachers were serving as teachers. We used to call them the people teachers. We realized that we did not have a license to call ourselves professionals, and that was also noted. We also realized that the structure did not favor us because we were not united to go through some kind of continuous professional development that would indicate that there is something unique about the profession that any person who wears his salt and wants to become a professional must necessarily go through to justify your inclusion in this noble and enviable profession of teaching. So all these things were considered. The teachers went back and said, "Wow, you have insulted us to open our eyes. Then we will go down and begin to do the needful to enable us justify our inclusion as professionals in Ghana," a strong and powerful one, of course. So there started the issue of the professionalization of teachers in Ghana. And the number one thing that came out in this whole debate and conversation was standard. At a time this particular comment was made by the minister, today, reflecting upon it and looking at how things have traveled, the minister was right. Because at that time, we did not have any standard whatsoever by which you can measure or basis upon which you can decipher whether this person is a teacher or not. There was no standard. A standard is a reference point for comparing and making judgment as to what is and what is not. That is what we call a standard. We can call it principle. And these things were basically absent as far as the whole structure of the teaching profession was concerned. Number one that came to, to settle the whole score was getting a standard by which we can judge that this is a teacher and this is not a teacher. Very important. In fact, standards are meant to draw a line between excellence and mediocrity in life in every profession across. Standards are meant to give a signal as to who belongs and who does not belong. We call it standard. So that actually culminated in the first ever national teacher standards. That was the first ever collectively agreed standard to guide teacher preparation and practice in the country. Very important. And let me say this. This particular standardization or coming to this conclusion of this national teacher standard did not happen overnight. It took several major stakeholders, relevant stakeholders in education, serious deliberation and serious consultation to come out with a commonly agreed, collectively appreciated standard that we want them to measure who a professional teacher is and who is not. The standard comes to serve two purposes. One is to weed out anyone who is not able to meet the standard as not a teacher, and to accommodate those who are able to meet the standard and above as professional teachers. That actually started the idea of making sure that the element of supposed people teacher in the teaching profession were weeded out. And any professional teacher, by then, after the institution and the implementation of this national teacher standard, who is not able to meet up to the minimum standard or benchmark will be dropped. And if you wanted to continue to be a teacher in good standing, it was incumbent upon you to keep on upgrading your knowledge, your skill, and your professional preparations and practice, to keep on justifying your inclusion as a professional teacher going forward. If you stop along the line by not improving upon your knowledge, your skill, your practice, and your preparations, you will drop below the standard and therefore be spat out by the system. So it was meant to ensure efficiency, effectiveness, and excellence in the system. Anything below that will be a mediocrity that Ghanaians will not accept in their educational system. I want us to see the background very well. And if you look at it, government upon government have all embraced the idea of standardization and implementation of this particular principle. Why? No government will deliberately come to institute mediocrity in our system, thereby making our system so porous to the extent that the caliber of students we produce or learners we produce will not be able to meet an international standard. This must be made clear because we are hearing that some people are still going around, excuse me to say, out of ignorance, saying that when a particular government comes to power, this whole thing about CPD will be scrapped off. Please, any government that comes want to reduce the standard will mean you want to kill education, you want to lower our standards so that we can be able to compete favorably and competitively in the global market. And Ghanaians will not take it kind with you. We cannot allow anyone, anybody, to walk into the classroom and teach. That will not be possible because we'll be risking seriously the future of our children. So, having appreciated this, ladies and gentlemen, and this why the standards, therefore, the standards have been developed as a professional tool to guide teacher educators. I mean, the tutors in the universities and colleges of education, teachers themselves, those in practice, student teachers, those still undergoing the training, and other stakeholders in education to identify in clear and precise terms what teachers are expected to know. Number one. So if a teacher knowledge is not up to that expectation, you are spat out of the system. Number two, to be able to do If your practice is not up to the minimum standards that all stakeholders have come together to establish, including NAGRA, CCT, and other major relevant stakeholders in education, if your practice is not up to that standard, you'll be dropped. And then the qualities teachers are expected to possess and some behavior to be exhibited. If the qualities you possess is below the standard, it means you'll be indirectly denigrating the profession as a whole, and for that matter, to ensure sanity and the purity of this particular noble profession, you'll be dropped. And then the behavior you are supposed to exhibit, if the behavior is not up to the standard that we have collectively agreed upon, you'll be dropped. So that is the standard. So if you are a teacher and your behavior falls below the belt, you'll be dropped. If you are not a teacher and your behavior is not up to the standard, you cannot be included. That is the essence of the standard. The standards are documented materials that present what teachers should know, value, and do in summary. Very important. What you should know, value, and do. So the whole document about the National Teacher Standard has to do with what teachers should know, value, and do. This is critical. If there is one Bible or one major document of reference for any professional teacher in Ghana, it is the National Teacher Standard. Let me repeat that. You need to have a copy of the National Teacher Standard so that you guide yourself to know, what you should value, and what you should do. Very important. And that applies also to my distinguished nurses and doctors on this platform. So the components of the National Teacher Standards as indicated in the published book. So if you just Google on National Teacher Standard, you can download it and then use it for your own reference. Very important. So you have the general information, you have general and the glossary. I think when you open that, you will get it clearly. Let me go further. So we have the basic principles for the design of the National Teacher Standards. There are certain philosophical underpinnings that informs the formulation and the design of the National Teacher Standard. And number one, it seeks to ask, who are the standards for? Who are the standards for? Number two, how were the standards developed? Number three, what is the legal status of the teacher standards? Number four, what philosophy underpins the standards? How are the teacher standards organized? How are the standards to be used? And what are the rules of teacher education institutions? So having seen that, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to now go straight away to see the philosophical underpinnings of the National Teacher Standard. What type of teachers do we, as a country, envision to produce? Are we envisioning to produce mediocre teachers who produce mediocre students and that will become a mediocre nation that cannot meet international standards? No. And the nation has come alive. So we are looking at what type of teachers do we need as a country to produce the right caliber of leaders, manpower that can stand shoulder high and compete favorably in the global market. To say that, let me just say this. A lot of my friends rushing to pick up forms and then filling these forms because the opportunity was open in the United Kingdom where teachers were needed. And somebody that brought it to me, a number of people brought that form to me to look at. I saw that they demanded your continuous professional development performance. Very important. So if we do not have that as a nation, you will not have any information whatsoever to fill there. It means we have come alive. We are now competing. Our teachers in Ghana, if you go strictly by these principles and standards, teachers in Ghana can fit into any part of the world, teach well and better. That is what the standard is meant for. So we are saying the kind of caliber of teachers we need going into the future will be teachers who have passion for teaching. Passion for teaching. I've been saying this. Passion is that internal energy in a professional that causes him or her to persevere and endure against every odd and obstacle that stands on his way to attaining a desired goal for the people he teaches or he leads. You cannot overcome a teacher or a nurse or a doctor who has passion for the job that he is engaged in. You can discourage them. Some work under various strenuous conditions, and yet they are not disappointed, they are not discouraged, they are not frustrated. They persevere and endure, making the maximum use of the minimum resources to create great impact in the life of the people they were for and they were with. That's what we call passion. That's what we call passion. One teachers who sees teaching as a high sense of lifelong learning. Yes, a teacher by nature is supposed to be a constant learner, because you cannot give out what you don't have. So all teachers, just like if you want to keep your profession alive and inflamed, you need to constantly be above board as far as your subject area is concerned. You look, in this era of globalization and information technology, if you are not informed in your area of specialization, you are deformed. And no society, no organization would like to have a deformed professional. You'll be spat out. It is in this connection that the continuous professional development is introduced to make sure that teachers and all professionals keep on upgrading, updating their knowledge and skill, their knowledge of preparation and practice in the classroom, in the theater, and in the world. Very important. We also want to see teachers who sees himself or herself as a leader and a role model. The teacher in the classroom is not limited to just the classroom. The teacher, you all know this. The teacher in the community is a leader, a mentor, sometimes a nurse, sometimes a doctor, sometimes an opinion leader, and you can mention them, a banker, that they consult you on financial issues. Because people think, people assume that the teacher knows everything, and they are justified. So it is based on this that we as teachers must raise the bar as far as leadership is concerned, because the students look up to us as role models, and that is one of the pillars of consideration. Then a teacher belonging to a community of practice within and beyond the school. Yes, one is you belong to a community of practice, people who share deliberate knowledge and skills together in their professional practice. That is what we are talking about. Sharing their challenges in their profession, sharing their gains, employing new skills, taking up best practices that are doing very well in certain jurisdictions, and seeing how you can modify and adjust them to suit your own environment. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about professional practice, professional community. We have professional learning community, and we also have professional learning committee. I think Dr. Joyce, when she comes, she'll be taking us through the legal, what do you call it, the legal underpinnings, the legal status of the National Teacher Standard and the CPD as a whole. She'll be taking us through that next week. So I will not talk much on that. And then we also need a teacher who acts as an agent of change. Our practice and our experience has indicated that certain communities were dormant, not developing, not active until a particular teacher goes to the community and begins to galvanize the resources, the competences, and the skill of the people, and leading them to become vibrant achievers in the community, in the taking several projects that inures to the benefit of all in the community. Teachers are agents of change. Now, I want us to see the domains of the National Teacher Standard. I mentioned them earlier on, but this is the details. Good. We have what we call the professional values and attitudes. And with that, we are talking about professional development and community of practice. Then number two, we have what we call the professional practice. And that is dealing with the managing the learning environment, teaching and learning and assessment. That is what constitutes the professional practice. And we have what we call the professional knowledge. It has to do with knowledge of educational framework and curriculum, knowledge of learners, and also that constitutes what we call the professional knowledge. In fact, talking about professional knowledge and specifically dealing with the knowledge of learners, all teachers, all professional teachers must have what I call the Trinity Love. The Trinity Love. What is the Trinity Love? I came out with this Trinity Love on the knowledge based on this professional knowledge, this elemented domain called professional knowledge. All teachers must have love for the learner, love for learning, and love for the two, for the first two. That's what I call the Trinity Love. And that is supposed to be one of the distinguishing features of a professional teacher. I repeat that. Love for learners, love for learning, and love for the first two. Very important. What teachers should value and live up to? So we're not taking them one by one for us to see what goes into each of them in details. So we have professional values and attitudes. With the professional, when we are dealing with professional development, reflect together to improve teaching, engage in lifelong learning, demonstrate leadership qualities in classroom and school environment. That is what we mean by the professional development. And then we have the community of practice. Work within the confinement of legal legislation, code of conduct, engage in community of practice, exhibit good teacher identity as role models, self-identity as an agent of change. Very important. So that is the value we want to associate with anyone who calls himself a professional. So you see, with this, you will see professional development there. And professional development has to do, it's a broad area that every teacher must grow within and to justify your inclusion as a professional teacher. Then we also have what teachers should know, and that has to do with the knowledge, professional knowledge. So knowledge of educational frameworks and curriculum, we need to know that. And we are talking about familiarity with the educational system and policies, familiarity with school curriculum and learning outcomes. Very important. Knowledge of multi-grade teaching of 4 hours and teaching a Ghanaian language, knowledge of learners, child development and learning, sociocultural backgrounds. All that is embedded in that domain called professional knowledge. Then we have what teachers should practice. That's a professional practice. We have managing the learning environment, demonstrate in planning and delivery how to teach challenging topics to achieve expected learning outcomes. You see, it's not everybody that can walk into the classroom and teach. That should be made clear. You see, we have been trained as teachers, and one of the basic tools we practice to distinguish ourselves in the classroom is what I call the pedagogy. Would enable, and every professional teacher might have done a course on pedagogy that enables you to demystify the complexity of a concept and bring it down to the understanding of the learner using different teaching methods and styles. That cannot be done by the police officer. That cannot be done by the military officer. You know that. You cannot send a nurse to go in the classroom and teach using some of these things. They will go and only be talking, but not teaching. So that is why becoming a professional is essential as far as our practice and preparations are concerned. Very important. Teacher and learning. It creates a safe and encouraging learning environment. Languages, behavior, and learning in varied groupings. Using varied teaching strategies to encourage learning participation, critical thinking, multilingual and multi-age classes, produce and use varied TLRs, and including ICT to improve learning outcomes, employs listening pedagogy effectively, and varies assessment modes. Very important. And then talking about assessment, identifying learners' needs for appropriate remediation and referrals. Keep records on learners for appropriate communication to relevant stakeholders, awareness of school level attainment of learners, and objectively assess learners. All this goes into what we call the professional practice. And good, thank God, this is the last component, the last domain. And I want to say this. So when you go through all these things in the classroom as a teacher, in terms of your practice. What will be the evidence to show that you are actually doing this in the classroom? That is where we have what we call the portfolio development. You will now take your evidence of your practice in the classroom in terms of the exams you set, in terms of the what you call the mapping you do, in terms of the stars you teach, take video shots, take pictures, take snapshots of the exercise you mark, the grading you do all that, and put it on the portfolio. There is a column. You will be taken through that by my IT director, Mike Nichuga, and then Dr. Joyce will also emphasize it before Mike will come on. So please, whatever participation you engage in the school environment in the name of actually helping the learners to grow holistically, you take evidence of that. It can be minutes, it can be reports and all that. You upload all that on your portfolio, and then a portfolio assessor will come at your blind side and then begin to assess to see what you have put in there, the evidence of your professional practice in the classroom, upload that on your portfolio. They'll look at that and give you marks. They give you points. So if you are able to follow all that procedure to the end, you can earn between 15 to 30 points. Very important. So that's why we as an organization have seen it imperatively necessary to take you through these procedures one by one so that you can fulfill all the demands of your portfolio to justify you getting between the 15 to 30 points that will be awarded by your portfolio assessor. Last year, a lot of people had zeros on that. A lot of people have zeros on that. Format of the pre-service teacher standards. So this is actually the standard I was talking about. We have the columns where column 1 is standard, and the standard we're talking about the national benchmarks. Column 2, you have the standards in action, and here we are talking about what is expected of the teacher. Column 3, we have examples. Column 3, we have examples of teachers' performance indicators. And with that, we are talking about what is expected of the supervisor and inspectors. Very important. So that is how the standard is structured. Now, we come to the in-service teacher standards with timelines. Those of us who are already in the teaching field, those of us who are already in practice, we have this, that is what we call the in-service teacher standards with timelines. I think, and the timeline there is very important. With the in-service teacher standards, each level of the standard has a timeline after which the teacher should be exposed to the next level. For instance, if you enter at the first rank, within some timeline period to whatever you are expected to know, do, and practice within that level has a time limitation before you can be exposed to the next level. That's very important. And they have a way of measuring it, and the CPD and then the portfolio, all that goes into it, help them to identify, to know whether you are actually, you have the knowledge expected based on the standard, you have the practice expected based on the standard, you have the attitude and the behavior expected based on the standard within the particular rank that you have found yourself before you are exposed to the next rank. Very important. Now, however, for a newly qualified teacher to be assigned to a rank, to a level or rank, induction training is mandatory. That's why you see all the directors across the country, anytime at all newly trained teachers are posted, they organize this mandatory induction training for them. It is key. It's part of the national teacher standard requirement that every newly trained teacher in a particular district must go through induction. Now, the newly trained teachers will start from round 1 upon successful completion of induction program and attainment of full license. So it's just like before you go in for your license as a driver, first of all, they will give you some exam to ride and all that, and they will give you a temporal license. So the newly trained teacher in this sense, between the period you have gone through the induction and the period you'll be getting your license, Even though you are teaching, you've only been given a temporal thing to be to operating on, until you get your license. Very important. I said the same process. I want her to see this clearly so we can have a clear picture of what I'm talking about. Now, so the teacher professionalization process, and to look at the diagram very well, this is structure of the teacher professionalization process. Step one, you have the initial training. The initial training is what we all go through at the colleges of education or the universities. And that is the initial training. And when you train and you complete, it doesn't end there. You will write what they call professional examination. Very important. And just like the license of you go there, you have to write some professional examination. After this particular one, after the professional exams, when you qualify the professional exam, we come to the initial licensing. The initial licensing is important. When you go through the initial licensing, we can call it the temporal license. Then when you obtain that, then you go through what they call the induction. Let me go to step two. The exam that a lot of the graduates failed brutally and that became a national issue. And I like the way our registrar came. Someone interviewed him, asked him that why is it that people have failed so massively? Is this something they can do to reduce the massive failure of people who want to become teachers? I like his answer. And his answer is a true answer from a great leader. And I love it so much. He said, the standards are meant for people to live and grow up to. Standards are not supposed to be lowered to justify the inclusion of the mediocre. I'm just paraphrasing him. I like the answer very well. You set a standard, you either grow to meet the standard or you remain at the bottom and remain not part. But to say because thousands of people have failed in an examination, therefore let's lower the marking scheme to accommodate a lot of people that may pass, that is taking the nation backward. It's amount to saying, please just allow people who want to become doctors, allow them to be, just don't put any restrictions, don't put any standard there that blocks people. No. And it all bounce back on us. And we begin to experience death at the hospitals, avoidable deaths. The same way people are dying morally because we don't have qualified teachers in the class to mentor and to move. After you have received the initial lance, you go in for the induction. The induction is what I was just talking to you about. Then after the induction, you go in for the full license. When you receive your full license as a teacher, then you have been officially included in this enviable, noble profession called teaching. You have been officially included. But you don't say, yeah, I have got it all. Now that I've gotten my license, over. There's nothing more else to do. No, you cannot say that. Because after you receive your license, you go in for registration. And then when you get your registration done, you don't say, yeah, it's now full. Am I a full teacher? Am I now a full-fledged teacher? Nobody can contest me or contend with that. So here is the case. The system is saying that you are not done yet. You are a registered teacher and you remain there. You remain there and you don't move to the next rank. The system will spit you out. Because you can't just say, I have been praying to become a teacher. Now I am a registered teacher with license. And you stop learning. You stop improving. You stop upgrading. It will come to a point, the system will automatically spit you out because you cannot continue to use the skill and knowledge that you acquired 10 years ago and without adding anything. You keep on pumping that onto the Ghanaian child who by virtue of the dynamic nature of our world would have to keep on improving and growing. You cannot. So if you are a teacher or a nurse who wants to be so dogmatic, who doesn't want to, who is not so proactive, so development oriented, the system will naturally push you out. Why? It will come to a point you will be irrelevant and the system can no longer contain you. So what happens? What provides for that? What is the remedy for that? After you have fully registered and fully licensed as a teacher, You need to be participating in continuous professional development activities that will keep on sharpening your skills, sharpening your knowledge, upgrading your knowledge to meet with the exigency of time, the great innovations of our time, so that you are not lacking behind. You see, as I said, in this era of globalization, if you fail to learn what you're supposed to learn and go and teach, the children will learn on your behalf. And you know what the consequences? When the children learn on your behalf, you go in and teach something and say, sir, it's no more like that. Oh. The first day they may say, oh, teacher was probably not, it was a slip of tongue. But if you keep on teaching them what is not relevant now, and they keep on telling you that according to we went to the internet and we saw that it's no more, and you keep on, they will not, your aroma of respect and inspiration will dry up. And when the teacher has his aroma of respect and inspiration for the child, and inspiration dry up, the teacher loses relevance. The teacher loses respect in the face of the students. And look, you cannot influence anybody who has no admiration for you. You cannot influence anybody who has lost the aroma of inspiration that you're supposed to emit. You cannot, and that is the situation. So your license renewal is linked to your participation in CPD activities. So you don't receive the administration, you don't get registered as a teacher and you say that is all. You need to keep on renewing your license. And the license renewal goes with learning, it goes with upgrading, it goes with constant practice, it goes with a lot of CPD activities. Then when you renew your license, you continue. And that is how you'll be renewing your license and getting promoted, getting upgraded until you reach the apex of your profession and you become excellent. You become a consultant. You become an expert. And you become, in fact, a resource for the nation. Evidence of criteria. So, as I said, evidence that a teacher has met or can meet the standards at the appropriate level must be in the form of a professional portfolio organized to meet the demands of the three domains. You see what I was talking about? So the portfolio is the evidence that you are been practicing what you're supposed to practice. You've been demonstrating the knowledge you're supposed to know, and you've been exhibiting the behavior that you are supposed to exhibit. Very important. That's what we call the evidence criteria, and it's all in your portfolio. When they take you through the portfolio development, you will see all the areas that you're supposed to fill as an indication of your active participation in this whole professional practice, knowledge, and values. Very important. Why the national teacher standard? The national teaching standard is meant for monitoring and evaluation purposes, thus supervision, appraisal for decision making, such as promotion and licensing, identification of training needs, as a benchmark to design subject-based standards and to guide the development of pre-service curriculum and placements. Very important. Now we come to what I call the professional ethics and excellence. You see, no matter how good you are as a teacher, your moral standards must be one that is worthy of emulation. And that's why professional ethics is key here. Ethics are moral standards grounded in principles that govern your belief, behavior, and convictions. You see, you're going to the classroom to teach. If you are not guided by ethics, you only go in there with a mentality that, oh, they pay me salary at the end of the month. Let me go and do whatever I can do to justify the salary they collect. That will not be compelling you morally to give up your best in the classroom. If your belief system, if your belief and your convictions are that I have come to this world to make a positive impact on the life of the young generation, that they may live to fulfill their purpose and their vision, their purpose and vision for the betterment of humanity. This is a different belief system altogether. You see, this one is dramatically opposed to the first one that is simply based on economic commercial gains. So I do A and I get B. I do A. So if I don't do A, this one is different. This one has to do with a holistic a holistic conviction that has to do with building society, contributing to build society, to be better than ever, using the talents that you have been imbued with. Very important. So that's why ethics is very important. Ethics are mental attitude based on beliefs that control your behavior. They are mental attitudes that, based on beliefs that control your behavior. There are some people, when they get up, they can tell a very good lie why they can't go to school and teach. And yet their hearts will not be moved at all. They will not feel any guilt in it. And someone too, probably justifiably, will not be able to go to school because of one or two things. And he's guilty. He's guilty that today he's going to deny his children of his infectious, morally empowering presence. And the person is not happy. The person doesn't that today I'm losing contact with my children. I mean, it's all based on the belief system. Those who have the assignment mentality, they see themselves being assigned by God to come and empower this generation. And they have a responsibility and they are accountable to the Creator who gave them life onto this earth. So they cannot sleep when the children are in trouble. They cannot, when the children are failing, they can't sleep. And those who have the salary mentality, they think, we are here for a transaction. I'll do A and they give me B. And that is it. See, that is where the difference lies. And ethics dictates all that. Professional excellence. Excellence is defined as highest quality, superior standard, extreme quality, maximum quality, a constant effort to improve, get better, and outdo your previous. That is quality. That's excellence. And this is the what you call the framework. Every professional, whether a teacher, a nurse, a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, we supposed to all move within this framework. The opposite of excellence is mediocrity. And mediocrity is simply doing below your potential at each point. Mediocrity is a very dangerous region. Very dangerous. I don't expect and I don't pray that any of my distinguished professionals on this platform should ever live in that region. It's a dangerous region. Nothing grows in that region. Nothing improves in that region of mediocrity. Nothing develops. Nothing flourishes. In fact, it is one of the saltiest environment or region in the world that nothing grows. You put in any potential there, it perishes. You put in any viable seed there, it scorches it to death. It's a dangerous region. And I was saying, it is bordered to the north by lack of vision, to the south by ignorance, to the east by procrastination, and to the west by fear of failure. This is a dangerous region, mediocrity. So at any point in time as a professional, we should all be aspiring to be excellent in whatever we do. We should be hungry for excellence, testing for excellence in whatever we do. That will distinguish us from others. Very important. The features of excellence. Excellence is observable. You can be excellent and you will not be notified. No. You can be excellent and you will not be noted by the environment or the people. Excellence is observable. Your head teacher, even you, the teachers in the same school, you know those who are doing very well, who are aspiring, who are excelling all the time in the classroom, who are excelling all the time. You know them. It's observable. In fact, the person who practices excellence, the person who wants to be, who is aspiring, who is hungry for excellence, he doesn't know. But people observe, so wow, they admire the way you move, they admire the way you handle things, they admire the way you are so meticulous about your profession. You don't know. Other people observe that. When you see an excellent person, nobody will tell you. You just know this person is well organized. You know them. So excellence is observable. And your footprints are also things that anybody can observe. Someone takes an office as a headmaster today, When he leaves, another person comes to see that the footprints, see the footprints of excellence. When the person is departing from that and going below the belt, they know the other people they observe it too. Excellence relates to what we do. It relates to what we do. It's not about wishing. It's what we do. Excellence brings us out of the no unknown. It stands no, it stands out. That's why during the Best Teachers Award we call the Teacher Prize now, you will see that sometimes they go deep into the cottage, into a school that is not known, but someone there in that school is so no, work has been so fantastic, so observably neat to the admiration of the whole Ghana that they will pick the person up and showcase the person to the world as the best teacher in Ghana. It's observable. If it were not observable, they wouldn't have known such a person from such a deep inside overseas cottage. They would have known the person. So excellence is observable, and that is why when such a person comes out as the best teacher in Ghana, there are no debates. You want to debate the community that have actually experienced his impact, his positive impact, they will tell you, please stop talking about what you don't know. The man has impacted our lives. He has been a source of inspiration. The young lady has been a source of inspiration. He came and he brought life and light to this community. That's why it's observable. So please let's note, mediocrity too is observable. If you are performing below, you are a school killer. You go to a school that was performing, and within the next 3 years, all the children are running away. Parents are pulling their children away from the school because the performance is coming down drastically, and there's no inspiration on the part of the head and the teachers there. That is mediocrity. Excellence originates in your mind, translates in your speech, and demonstrates in your life. So it all comes from the mindset. If you are a man or a woman of excellence, it begins from your mind, translates in your speech, and demonstrates in your life. Very important. Excellence is not imposed from the outside, it is released from the inside. It's released. You cannot impose somebody to be excellent. No, you can't force someone to be excellent. It must just come from within. Very important. The principles of excellence. You must have constant hunger and appetite for excellence. That's number one. Number two, deep commitment to constant growth and improvement. Number three, must possess ethics and integrity. In fact, talking about integrity here, integrity, you are a man or a woman of integrity when your word and your action becomes one. The word integrity comes from the word integrate. Integrate. When your word and your action is integrated to become one, then you are a man of integrity or a woman of integrity. That means that you do what you say and you say what you do. When you promise someone you're going to do this, you come and you do it. So a man of integrity is one who, a woman of integrity or a man of integrity is one who has developed his morals to the extent that his word and his action are one. They become one. He doesn't say what he does. He doesn't say what he cannot do. Whatever he says, he does. And whatever he does is what he says. Show genuine respect and love for others. That's excellence. Genuine respect. I'm not talking about fake ones. Genuine respect and love for others. The principles of excellence. Always do the extra mile. Go the extra mile. An excellent spirit always goes beyond the call of duty. So if you're a nurse, they go the extra mile. After treating the patient, they follow up to even see in the house. This one is even outside the work environment. They follow to see, to monitor to see what the person is doing in the village or his town or his house. You see, it's not all that can do this until you have passion for a job. You cannot do this. If you are a teacher, you've observed that a child is very good and so talented in the classroom, but so reserved. And then sometimes for 3-4 days he has not come to school. you follow up to find out what is happening to this child, because that is, you are going beyond the call of duty. A teacher who is only based on, who thinks that his presence in the school is based on based on transactional arrangement. Oh, I'm here to only teach and be paying me at the end of the month. He will not go the extra mile. Why? Because that is not part of his job. So you see how the principle works. Always go the extra mile. Excellent spirit always goes beyond the call of duty. Always give 100%. You going in to handle a patient, give 100% attention and everything. Concentration. And you will not make a mistake by swapping drugs that the patient is not supposed to take and give it to him, and then he takes it and have complication and dies. No. You are going to teach a lesson, you plan the lesson, meditate upon the lesson, reflect upon the lesson, and then anticipate the questions that may come from the children. And then before you go in and give 100% delivery, coordinating and connecting with the children, having that harmonious, magnetic relationship with the children, and let the children see you in front of them as an icon of inspiration and an icon of inspiration to them. And that is 100%. They want to live, they just see you and they see their future clear. That is 100%. Not for you to be in the classroom and you half of your mind is in the classroom and half is in your business, your kiosk or your cocoa farm or your cashew farm. You are teaching, and small time you look at your watch when this lesson should end in time for me to leave. That is not 100%, please. An excellent person gives 100% to 100% attention and time to whatever he does. Be consistent. Never compare yourself with others. An excellent person doesn't compare himself with others. You compare yourself with yourself. You compare your current practice, your current practice with your previous, and keep on improving. Your current performance is compared with your previous performance. So you are comparing yourself with yourself. And the last point, please. This one is a shocker. If you go by this principle, if all the principles above, if you go by this principle, the last one, I can assure you, is going to enhance your relationship, going to enhance your work. Your social capital will increase. You will enjoy your relationship with your family and the people around you and your workers. This last point, violation of this creates problem, creates antagonism, creates animosity, divide staff members among themselves. People sitting, some will sit under this tree, another people sit under this tree, and this is the violation. It's when people begin to violate this last principle. Oh, not the last principle. So sorry, the ninth principle. The ninth principle says, don't condemn, don't criticize, and don't complain. You keep on condemning your heads, condemning your colleagues. In their absence, all that you do is to condemn them. When they begin to hear that, oh, in your absence, you said this about them, problem begins. You condemn your wife, you condemn your husband. He does something, you condemn him or her. When he hears that even you, that's the question, even you said this, you create a problem. And that problem is difficult to heal. It's difficult to heal. Condemnation should not be part of you from today and to go if you want to be a man or a woman of excellence. A lot of people miss opportunities because they just carelessly condemn someone who would have been as the source of their promotion and advancement to the next level. The next point, don't criticize. Don't criticize. Yes, somebody saying, hey, somebody does something wrong. Yes, don't criticize. You see, we have what we do is destructive criticisms. We have constructive and destructive criticisms. If you criticize someone, you don't just go direct. Please begin at least. You can begin at least with the positives. Oh, Kelly, you've done very well. This school actually was down, completely down. Nobody wanted to come to this school some years back. but your presence in this school has actually revitalized the whole system, and the school is now at the top in the municipality, and all that and all that and all that. And he said, but if we do this, I think we can also do this to improve. You mentioned the areas you need improvement and see what you can do to improve. But you don't go direct to tell the person, look at what you have done. And that's the result of what we are going through this. How you do that? The person will take a time with you. You know that. So always mention areas that we can improve. After you have mentioned areas that we have excelled, and I will take it kind because I will know you are giving me constructive criticisms. But if you come direct and begin to pinpoint and in a very insulting and denigrating manner my weaknesses, no one will take it kind. You know that. And a lot of people have done that to their bosses, and they have actually crafted their own effort. They've actually caused stagnation to their own growth, because your boss will keep on giving recommendation to other people for your promotion and your advancement. You have criticized him, and he has never forgiven you. And that is the problem. And I don't understand why he's behaving the way that. You said something to somebody who is it back to him, and he is not happy. He can't come to ask you because you didn't tell him directly. But the person who went back and told him that he told you, you told him or her, is would never be mentioned. You see the complication, and that is what is happening. Don't complain. Somebody says, why should I not complain? If somebody is stepping on my, yes, don't complain. Whatever that you think is an issue for you to complain about, ask yourself, can I do something about it? If you cannot do something about it, if you know somebody who can do something about it, if you don't know anybody that can do something about it, then you then suggest, what can we do to improve upon this? Without actually complaining that this person is that, this, but no. If you avoid these three C's in your life, you'll be a man and a woman of excellence. The last one, make excellence your lifestyle. In all your undertakings, make excellence your lifestyle. And here I will end by saying, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so grateful for your presence here. Thank you for your comportment and composure throughout this presentation. I therefore charge all of us. Let's go out there to live life of excellence, life that depicts us as professionals, that we can showcase this noble profession of ours to the world. Thank you, and God bless you all.